If I can have everybody's attention here in the media center, it's my honor to introduce to you somebody who really needs no introduction here at this racetrack, and that is the King, Richard Petty, whose 200 wins in what is now the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series will likely never be equaled, and whose final win came here in 1984 on a historic day with President Ronald Reagan in attendance. King, looking back on that great day, what is, looking back on that victory, how special of a day was that for you? And then how special is this racetrack for you and your memory?
Well, you know, it had to be a special day for anybody, just win in front of the president. But, you know, you win the 200th race on the last green flag lap on July the 4th in front of the President of the United States, and you beat somebody like Keel to the flag. You know, like I told him before, if it had been a script from the movies, nobody would have bought it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that it just kept my whole career, I guess, and I guess it did because it's the last race I won. But you know, you look back and you look at it, and it was accumulation. If I hadn't won the first race, then I wouldn't have won the 200th, and so it was not any more important in the win column, except that it just was a cherry on top of the cake.
Okay. Well, if you have a question for the King, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We're going to start over here with Hill, and we'll work our way over to Matt.
Hill Overton, WNDB Radio. Richard, I don't know how many people in this room other than you and I were at that first race, the strictly stock race, the forerunner of what's now the Cup Series, June 19th, 1949. You were there watching your dad race. Bobby Allison was there. Humpy Wheeler was there. Bruton Smith was there. I don't know if anyone else in this room was there. If they are, I'd like to see their hand. But I remember very well, I had been in the Soapbox Derby, and all of us Soapbox Derby guys in Charlotte in the 49 race were given said, if you wear your Derby T-shirt, you can come out and see the race. What are your recollections of that day? How'd your dad do? And I know you were 12 at the time. I was 13, so we were right there together. But tell us about that day and what you recall about it.
The whole deal, my dad hung out at a service station up in Greensboro, and these boys, a couple guys had a Buick, Century Buick, I guess, had two carburetors, running real fast on the road, and somehow or another he talked them into letting him borrow their car. So Sunday morning, myself, my brother, my mother, and Daddy got in the car, and we drove it to Charlotte, and then first thing we done, we went into, I can remember, I don't know how I remember this deal. We went into the Texaco service station. They put it up on the lift. They jacked it up. They changed the oil in the thing, took the muffler off of it, put a number, 38, I think, was a number on the side of the car. And I guess they had a seatbelt, I don't know, but anyhow. And we went to the racetrack. And so about halfway through the race, Dad turns the car over, tears all the doors off of it, and we have to thumb a ride home with my uncle. He happened to be there. So they had to go back the next day with a flatbed truck to get the car. Now, how he explained it to them guys he borrowed it from, I don't know. But anyhow, that was the beginning of Petty Enterprises right there.
We'll go to Matt and then to Al.
Matt Weaver, AutoWeek.com. We've often talked about your accomplishments and how great the legacy of your career has been. But I'm curious, throughout all of your years participating in NASCAR, watching NASCAR, outside of your accomplishments, what do you think is the most fantastic or the greatest accomplishment by any driver or any team in NASCAR history?
You know, I always put things in my perspective anyway. Things happened when my dad was driving in his operation. I came along, me and Pearson and stuff, we done our thing. Earnhardt came along, kind of filled the gap up. Jeff Gordon come along there. Right now, Jimmy Johnson's doing the thing. And there's no way you compare Jimmy Johnson with David Pearson, because it's a different, completely different deal. I'm like Kyle, the only thing that's the same about racing is they throw the green flag when it starts and the checker flag when it's over. Everything else is different. All the PR about it, all the cars are different, the drivers are different, and each one of the people I've talked about come from a different generation. So they look at different things in different light. Kyle looked at things different than I looked at things, and I looked at things different than my father looked at things, just because of the generation and what we grew up with, what our circumstances were. So you can't compare apples and oranges. It's kind of a deal that a lot of us have been fortunate enough to kind of lead the pack at different times, but I don't see any one of the leaders being above any of the rest of the crowd. That's just what it took to get us to where we're at.
We'll go to Al and then to Jerry.
Uh-oh.
Richard Petty, Al Pearson Auto Week. There was a Grand National race run in 1971, and you finished second, and Bobby finished first, but Bobby was not given credit for that win. Has anybody ever suggested that you should have been the official winner and you should be at 201 instead of 200? You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was
At Bowman Gray.
Bowman Gray or somewhere, and they were in baby grand cars against our great big old cars, and I don't know. I guess they had to have a winner for the thing, but I don't know if I got any points for winning the race or if he got any points. I don't know what the circumstances. I do know he always argues that he won one more race and didn't get credit for it, but to me, he was in a different kind of car than what we was running. So to me, it really wasn't a cup race because it wasn't a cup car. So anyhow, nobody's ever suggested or nobody's ever sat down and figured out really how that needs to be played. But when you're looking at, 2,550 or 60 races that NASCAR has run in the Cup Series, why worry about one,
We'll go next to Jerry, then to Steve, and then to Greg.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net and PRN. I'm not as old as Hill and Al, these older guys. Sorry, I can't think back to 1940 whatever. No, but what about the future? Can you talk about the state of your organization and your team? Obviously, you're going through a transition right now with a fill-in driver.
Yeah.
But how healthy is your organization? Fans expect to see the Petty Motorsports around forever.
Well, as long as I'll be here, there'll probably be one. I don't know if Kyle wants to take up the mallet or not, but it's just an idea that everybody goes through ups and downs and ins and outs. NASCAR, with all the rule changes or point standings and stuff, they're trying to do everything they can to upgrade and bring back spectators. Well, we're doing the same thing, only we're struggling with, making sure that, Smithfield signs up for another year. This Air Force does, and we've got to deal with a race car when we've got all the people, we've got a driver. So it's a never-ending deal. And if you talk to me or you talk to any other teams, everybody's up in the air at this time of year, most of the time, trying to figure out, where are we with what we can do next year. And right now, we're like everybody else. We've got a plan, but when you look at all the dominoes up, if the first one don't fall, the rest of them might not fall like you want to. If it falls in the middle, you don't know. So we're all in a situation where we depend on a lot of other people or a lot of other circumstances to get done what we want to get done. Right now, things are looking decent. I won't say they're looking great. I won't say they're looking bad, but we're in the middle of some transition deals here, and we should be in pretty good shape.
We'll go to Stephen, then to Greg, and then to Ben.
Richard, Stephen Cole Smith with thedrive.com. I'm wondering if there's anybody in the world that's signed more autographs than you have. Would you talk a little bit about the importance of that and the fact that you don't just draw a line and do a couple of capital letters like a lot of people? Would you talk about that and the amount of time and the importance it is to spend time with fans?
Well, and I've told this story before, but probably when the first race I run, I was talking about running in Columbia, South Carolina, probably had one person to come up when the race is over, to get an autograph. And then next race, maybe two people, third race, maybe three people, whatever. But right early, I said, looked in the deal. We had no sponsors at that time. And the purse didn't come from the promoter. It came from the people sitting in the grandstand. So I said, okay, I'm going to sign this. And it's like saying thank you. But when they get home, I want them to be able to read who's saying thank you. Okay, so I just took my time and be able to sign autographs. And I think somebody figured the other day that probably close to 2 million autographs over a period of time, and that's a bunch of autographs. But that's still thank you. Those are the people that put me in business, and the reason you're here. If it wasn't for the fans, you'd probably have to go to work for a living. You know, one of those kind of deals.
Greg and then Ben.
Happy birthday, sir. GregAngleAutoWeek.com. As you talk about the different generations, and your generation was different than the current generation and everything, what about the generation of fans who remember the North Wilkesboros and remember all that, and now they look at this stuff and they're not too keen on it. They're not too keen on this stage racing and this going out to California and all that. What would you say to those fans who still kind of like NASCAR but seem to hang around on the fringes and are always complaining about it?
Well, a lot of those fans maybe don't keep up with it quite as much, but I have a lot of people come up and says, my granddaddy used to come, my dad come, my dad brought me to the first race, I'm still coming. So it's still a way to get new fans, okay, new things going on. And you got to figure there's so much going on out there now for young people, old people. Nobody's got the time to sit for 4 or 5 hours and watch a race anymore. I mean, if it lasts more than 15, 20 minutes, we're going to get our little machine out and start punching buttons and, doing something else. And so the deal there is, getting those fans, keeping as many fans as we can. But the big deal is all those fans that used to be Richared Petty fans, they're as old as Richared Petty, so they're not going to be able to come more. So we got to get the next generation. How we do that, everybody's looking at trying to figure that out because, again, like I said before, my dad's generation, my generation, Kyle's generation, this is a whole different generation of people, and they're looking at things so much different than what we did 10 or 15 years ago. So how do we tap into those people to keep our sport alive? So it's going to take everybody to do it. It takes y'all to do it. It takes us to do it. It takes NASCAR. It takes TV. It takes everybody in order to get to the people. And from time to time, there's 330 million people out there. We ought to be able to get 50 or 100,000 every weekend anyway. And that's what it's going to take.
Go to your left to Ben.
Richard, Ben White with the Lexington Dispatch. I'm over here.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Hey.
Hey. Just a question for you about Daytona International Speedway. You have 7 Daytona 500 wins, a couple of July wins, I think. Okay, thank you. What is so special about this racetrack for you? Why have you had so much incredible success here at this track?
Yeah, I think about that every once in a while because when we first came down here, my dad got lucky. He won the first race, and I missed a 61 race and a 65 race, and I guess I won my last race in 81. That's winning a big percentage of the Daytona 500 races, and when you look at it from that standpoint, and I don't know that we worked any harder or any different than a lot of other people did. I'm fortunate enough to win 7 races. There was 2 or 3 of them that I shouldn't have won, but then there was 2 or 3 others that if I hadn't had trouble, I would have won. So it kind of evened itself out because we run so many races. But why our luck is better, and I'll look at it as luck or circumstances is better here than a lot of other places, I don't know. I mean, we go to, a place like Rockingham. We won 11 500-mile races. You go to Charlotte, I hadn't won but 3 races at Charlotte and run a lot more races there. I always run good, but things just didn't come together. And, it's not because I didn't like the track, not because we didn't run good. Circumstances just wasn't there. So you learn to live life like that.
Well, King, in 2 days' time, you will become the coolest 80-year-old on the planet Earth. And with that being said, Daytona International Speedway President Chip Weil has something special for you.
Make that yourself?
I did. I just spent like the last 3 days making this for you. We have a local baker that I sent a picture of your 1984 200th win card to, and
The STP people love you.
yeah, they're over here. They wanted it. I told them, "Sure, be careful." I'm not sure how this is gonna hold. Are you ready?
Make sure it won't slide off.
this way too. Thank you.
Oh, we lost the H. You're just 0 now. That's cool. Congratulations on that. That sounds
I'll
good.
just start again.
That's right.
That's one way to get younger,
We all
King.
love that.
I would
Look
have,
at you, has your hat on.
I would have appreciated a check better than this. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for all your support of the years. It's great for us to be able to celebrate your.
Thank you. I appreciate everything y'all have done to get me to 80 years, okay? I appreciate that. Thank you all. Y'all have a good weekend.